Hey friends, welcome once again to JD's Guidance. Friends, this video is all about the portfolio risk and returns. Friends, in the last video we have seen that if I have an individual stock, how can I know how much this stock is risky and what can be the expected return of that stock. Friends, we had a lot of discussion on the statistical measures like standard deviation and variance. We have also seen that we also need to know sometimes not just the security risk in absolute term, that is the standard deviation and variance. We also need to know sometimes the beta. So that is a different video that we have covered, but in this video we will now switch over to the discussion on portfolio risk and return. So it's quite logical that the investors would generally not invest in one share or one stock, but the investor would like to have his money or wealth distributed over different types of stocks or different types of shares, right friends? So if I have my money invested in different types of stocks, what is the risk ultimately of the entire portfolio? I'm more interested to know than by knowing one individual security how much it is risky. So that calls for our discussion on portfolio risk and portfolio return. So friends, when we are trying to find out what is the portfolio return, so I will write RP represents the return from a portfolio. Friends, very easy. How to know what is RP? Suppose I have two two securities, security X and security Y, right? Now security X has an expected return, okay? So I will write expected return of security X, suppose it is 15, and expected return of security Y, RY, is suppose 10. And suppose my entire wealth is distributed such that 40% of my investment is in security X and 60% of my investment is in security Y, right? So I call it as weight. How much weight that Y carries in my investments of say 1 rupee. So my entire wealth is 1. How I have distributed 0.6 in security Y, 0.4 in security X. So this is the weight of security X and this is the weight of security Y. So friends, if this information is given to you, what would be your portfolio? What is the expected return from the portfolio? Remember, always when we are discussing risk, first we are trying to find out our expected returns, because risk is the variability in the return. So friend, my expected return from the portfolio would be, I will sum this and this, I will take the product. So 15 is the expected return of X multiplied by the weight of X. So what I am doing? I am multiplying Rx into Wx, okay? Plus I will be multiplying Ry with Wy. So what is my expected return of Y, that is 10 rupees, into the weight of this. When I sum this, when I take the sum of this plus this, I get what is called the portfolio return. Right? So this is the expected return from the portfolio. So I may prefer to write E, that is expected return from a portfolio. So what do you understand? What is the expected return from the portfolio? Expected return of the portfolio, just in a very layman sense, it is the expected return from individual security X multiplied by the weight of security X. Means how much money I have put, weightage of that money, plus the expected return from security 1 multiplied by the weight of security Y. So that means if I have to say what is the portfolio return, it is the weighted average. So it is the weighted average of individual stock returns. Okay, so all the individual stock returns I will take and find out the weighted average. So that is my expected return from a portfolio. Friends, so if you see that expected return from a portfolio may vary from the individual return. So let's find out what is the answer for this. So friends, as you can see that I get here 6 and I get here 6. as well. So the total comes to 12. So actually stock X expected return is 15 and Y is 10. However, when I have taken the weighted average of these two stock, I get the expected return to be 12. I'm sorry, this is not, this is 15 and this is 10. So I get it is 12. Right, friends? Now the question is, we know how to calculate the expected return from a portfolio. So it's very simple. If you have, say for example, you have say X and Y, two different two different stocks, and you have the expected returns. Okay, so suppose in a very good condition the return is, say for example, 15 rupees. In a average situation the return is 10 rupees. In a very bad situation the return is 9 rupees. You have here equally some values here. Okay, so now given these values you can also see what is the what is the probability that this will be 15. You can also see what is the probability. Suppose it is 60%, that is for example this is 40 say 20%, and this is also 20%. Similarly you can also see the probability. So suppose probability is same, okay, that the condition will be good, condition will be average, condition will be this. So if you have to know what is the expected return of X, what you have to do is that you have to find out the expected return of X by multiplying 15 into 0.6, 10 into 0.2, 9 into 0.2. Similarly, if you want to know, so suppose I want to know what is the expected return of stock X, RX. So what I will do, I will just 15 into probability 0.6 plus 10 into probability 0.2 plus 9 into probability 0.2. When I sum them all, I get the expected return of stock X. Similarly, if I have for Y also, I will do the same thing. Expected return of Y 20 into 0.6 plus 18 into 0.2 plus 15 into 0.2. So I am multiplying this probable values with the expected returns, and when I sum them all I get what is the expected return of security Y. So this will be expected return of security X, this will be the expected return of security Y. Now having given the expected return Rx is equals to something and Ry, we will see it, and Ry equals to something. Now if I want to know that given this portfolio what is the portfolio overall expected return. What is the overall expected return? This is giving individual stock X return. This is giving individual stock Y's return. Now I am interested to know what is the overall return. And I have to know the information that how much money is invested in X and how much money is invested in Y. Suppose it is 60% in X and 40% in Y. So what I will do? I will just find out Rx and Ry first. So it is 15 into 0.6, it comes to 9 plus 10 into 0.2, that comes to 2 plus 9 into 0.2, that comes to 1.8. So if I sum them all, I get how much? I get is rupees, I do it again, 9 plus 2 plus 1.8. So my expected return from stock X is 12.8. Whereas here it is 20 into 0.6, that is 12 plus 18 into 0.2, that comes to 18 into 0.2 comes to 3.6, and plus 15 into how much? 0.2. So it comes to 15 into 0.2, that comes to 3. So sum them all, I get, if I sum all, I get 3.6 plus 12, I get 18.6. So my expected return of stock Y is 18.6, expected return of stock X is 12.8, and I can write it here that expected return is 12.8 and I have here 18.6. So when I multiply this with the weightage, this is the weight, I multiply with the weight, what I get, if I sum them all, I get what is my expected return from a portfolio. So friends, I have already mentioned that I have to find out the expected return of a stock, multiply with the weightage. This is the expected return of the stock, multiply with the weightage. Expected return of the stock multiply with the weightage. Expected return of the stock multiply with the weightage. Weightage means how much money I have put in X and Y. But in this sum, in this particular example, your expected returns were given directly. But here, the expected returns are not given directly, rather they have given you the expected stream of returns could be 15, 10, 9, 20, 18, 15 depending on good, average and bad conditions. What is the probability is also given. Given the probability, you can find out what is the expected return of X and expected return of Y. Now we have to know how to calculate the portfolio risk. Right friends? So let's see how to calculate given the portfolio. You know this is a portfolio because I have two securities. More than one security constitute a portfolio. Let's see how to calculate the portfolio risk. So friends, to calculate the portfolio risk, I'll just tell you certain things, okay? Now I want to know the portfolio risk. So remember my dear friends that in a portfolio, I have got more than one security. Say A, B, C, etc. etc. Got? So more than one securities are there. So whenever I say portfolio, so it is not very difficult to understand that I have put some money in stock A, some in B, some in C, right? How much would be my risk will depend on two things. How much my individual securities are risky. How much C is risky, how much B is risky, how much A is risky, right? How to calculate individual security risk? Individual security risk we have already seen in the previous video that we can make use of variance or standard deviation to know how much individual stocks are risky. But we are talking about a portfolio. So of course the individual securities will matter. How much an individual security is risky will of course matter. Okay. So because see for example, B might be very risky, which may make the entire portfolio very risky. Okay, C and A may be very neutral or less risky, but because of B, the entire portfolio becomes risky. Okay, so individual security risk matters. Okay, individual security risk. But also you must understand this that suppose A represents that I have bought a share of airlines. Okay, aviation sector. I have taken some bank shares also, so banking sector, and maybe I have taken from textiles some shares. So don't you think that my A, B, C are quite nicely diversified because they all come from different sectors, right? So when I have stocks from different sectors, so there are very less chances that anything happening to this sector will affect these two sectors. Anything bad happening to this sector may not affect much these two sectors, right? So whenever we make a portfolio, our idea is that we should select shares in such a manner that they do not correlate in terms of returns. If they are correlating, if they are very closely associated, then anything adverse happening will make me suffer loss from all the scripts, all the stocks, right? But if they are unrelated, then I am quite safe because anything adverse in one sector will be balanced by the returns from the other sector. So that means there is also a need to see how much within themselves they are moving together, right? So this is called interactive risk. That means the risk of a security in relation or how much my return of this share B is related with the returns of these two. How much this and these two are related. So that this is called interactive risk. How much this security A, okay, how much this returns of A vary with the returns of B and C. How much B varies with A and C. So therefore, I have to know these two risks in order to know the portfolio risk. My dear friends, in my last video, we have seen that individual security risk is calculated with measures like variance, okay, variance of security X or by standard deviation of security X, right? But for interactive risk means I am trying to find out the co-movements. I want to know how much these stocks are moving together. We want to know how they behave together. co-movements. Okay, so I make use of statistical measure called covariance. Covariance will tell me how much an individual security move together with the other, okay, in a portfolio, right? So suppose it is -10, that means it is moving in an opposite direction. If A gives a higher return, B would give a less return, right? If it is positive, then suppose it is 150, then it is showing that they are moving together. When they vary in the same, direction. So this is measured through covariance. But many a time covariance is not like a right measure. I won't say right measure, but not used. Instead we make use of correlation as well. Actually covariance, correlation almost same. So we make use of both. If I know this, I can know this. If I know this, I can know this. Now correlation is actually a standardized form of covariance, because here these are the absolute numbers. So if they are absolute number, I cannot see the strength of their co-movement, how strongly they are moving together. So in order to know the direction as well as the strength, I make use of correlation, because it is standardized in the sense that there is +1 and -1 and the value ranges between these two. So I standardize the covariance by making use of correlation. Okay. So when covariance is divided by the the covariance is divided by the standard deviation of x of a security x or standard deviation of security y, we get correlation. So in short, what I want to say is that covariance or correlation can be used as a measure of interactive risk. So I hope the idea is clear. Now what's the formula to know the portfolio risk? So risk is measured through variance, right? But for individual security. But for portfolio risk, I have to take both individual as well as interactive risk. So we will measure the portfolio variance. How to measure the portfolio variance? Remember, portfolio variance means it will include both these components. So portfolio variance, there is a formula that we will see now. So friends, when I say variance of a security, it is written like this. But when I say variance of a portfolio, I will write it like this. Okay. So variance of a portfolio, now there are two ways. One is a tabular way of doing it and another is to use the formula. What I will do is that I will write 1 here, I will write 2 here, and then we will write 3 here. So now what I will do, in 1 I will do like this. Standard deviation, this is variance of security x, right? And here I will write covariance of security x and y, right? Same thing I will write here, covariance of security xy, but instead of writing variance here of x, I will write variance of y. This is my 1. In the second one, what I will do is that I will write weight of security x, okay, weight squared of x. Then we will write weight of security x into weight of security y, okay. Same thing I will write here, weight of security x into weight of security y. This I will write weight of security y. So friends, this and this represents the same thing but of two different security. This and this is same. This represents the weight, this also represents weight, but of two different security. This and this remains the same. Now in the third column, what we will do, this is the final column, this is the result column, this is what you have to do. I will first multiply this with this. So I get here variance of x multiplied by the weight square of x plus I will multiply this with this. So I will write wy, weight of x into weight of y, covariance of xy, plus I will multiply this and this. So this is the same, wx, wy, covariance of xy, plus So what I have done, I have multiplied this and this, and then this and this. So this is variance of y, weight of y. Okay. If you put the values here, you will get the answer of portfolio risk. But let me simplify it further. So you can see here, this and this, they are separate. So I will write variance of x, weight of x, plus I am writing this also, variance of y, weight of y, plus you can see this and this are written twice. So I am writing plus 2 times wx, wy, weight of x, weight of y, and covariance of xy. Okay. What I have done, I have taken these two first and then I have taken twice of these two because they are written twice. Friends, one last point, then things are done. Now this, what I can do is that I can write this variance of x, weight of x, plus variance of y, weight of y, plus 2 times, same thing I am writing, weight of x, weight of y, and then come covariance xy. If you remember, covariance xy is nothing but correlation of x and y into standard deviation of x and standard deviation of y. This is one formula that we already have. Correlation xy into standard deviation. So I just write that this is equals to correlation xy into standard deviation of x, standard deviation of y. So if you want, you can write it, okay, that this is how we calculate the portfolio risk. So what are the things is required? We need variance, we need weight square, we need variance, we need weight. Weight means weightage, means how much money we have put in this individual securities. Twice of this product of weights. Correlation coefficient is required, that means between x and y, what is the coefficient of correlation, and the standard deviation of this. So friends, you can see in this formula we have taken the individual security risk as well as the covariance representing the interactive risk. With a small problem, we will just see how things are working, and that will give you a clear idea how to calculate the portfolio risk. So friends, let's see. So here you see I have brought some information and we will place it in the formula to see whether we are getting correctly the portfolio risk. We have got two security x and y, and we have the expected returns from x, expected returns from y, standard deviation of x, standard deviation of y. Friends, you must remember the standard deviation, if it is given, you can find out variance by squaring it, right? So if this is standard deviation, so variance is the square of the standard deviation. So we are given standard deviation and correlation. Rxy means correlation between x and y is minus 0.60. Let's place it here. So what we want variance of x and weight square of x. So I am just writing here, friends, please concentrate, variance of x. I have standard deviation, so I told you I have to square in order to know the variance. 50 square, right? And weightage of x. So how much is the weight of x? So let's suppose in the question it is not written, so I'll just propose that the weight is like this, that x is to y, means investment in x and investment in y is in the proportion of, let me propose it is 0.40, 40% is to 0.60, means 60%. So 60% I have invested in y and 40% in x. Given this information, so variance of x is given to you 50%, so I square it because it's given standard deviation. I have to square it to get the variance. Weightage of x. Weightage of x is 0.40, so I will square this also, 0.40 square, okay. Then what I have to do, find out the variance of y. Variance of y is 30 square into, I need the weight of y. Weight of y is 60. So 0.60 square. Okay. I'll just rub it. Okay. Till here we have done. Now we want 2 times. So I'll write here plus 2 times. I need weight of x and weight of y to be multiplied. Weight of x is 40% and y is 60%. with the correlation. So let me put brackets. So what I have to do, I have to multiply this with the correlation of what? Correlation xy. So correlation of xy is minus 0.60. So I am writing minus 0.60 and then multiplied with the standard deviation of x, which is 50, and standard deviation of y, which is 30. Let's quickly take help of calculator and find out what's the value. So the calculations I have done here, you can see this is 50 square written here, 0.4 square written here, 30 square written here, 0.60 square written here, 2 into 0.4 into 0.6 into minus 0.60 into 50 and 30 together minus 432. When we simplify this is the final, and ultimately I get the portfolio risk to be 292. So friends, this is the variance. This is the variance of the portfolio, which I have told you before that if variance of the portfolio is known, so if I know what is the variance of the portfolio, this is 292, and if I take the square of this, I get the standard deviation, 292 square root. So let's see what's the square root. So this is 17.08, or you can say 0.88. So this is the absolute risk of this portfolio. Friends, this is a case with only two securities where we have security X and Y. Friends, it's very natural that again we cannot have always two securities. There can be more than two securities also. So for that we have another video in the next to follow where we will deal with more than two securities. So I hope this is clear how to calculate the portfolio risk. In the next video, we will come up with another case where there are more than two securities. So thank you for watching, friends. Stay tuned for the next video. Bye-bye.